some tips on how to talk so that your children listen. I have shared the screen, my presentation with Mohan. Mohan, if you can make it live, then we can start the session.
Yes, ma'am, you can start the session.
Okay. How do I have control of this? Right. So coming back, dear parents, once again, welcome to our Tuesday afternoon sessions. This is something that we thought of for doing after the, from the past 2 weeks, that we thought the communication between the school as well as the parents should be more interactive, should be more engaging, should be more regular. And that's the reason that we have earmarked every Tuesday as a day where we can, connect with you. There might, going forward, every Tuesday we will be having different sessions. Maybe the teachers will take sessions, maybe we will call outside faculty members, or maybe there might be like a one-on-one session where the teacher is giving you feedback about your child and your, discussing your child's progress and attainment, etc. And also every Tuesday may be a little different from what you have the previous Tuesday, and we're trying to make it as interactive and communicative as possible so that it is better. It's a platform for both of us to engage in together, and it also opens up possibilities for us also to put things into place as soon as possible, rather than to wait for things at the end of the year or at the end of a term. I think if we are meeting every Tuesday, somewhere or the other we'll be able to communicate better, open channels of communication where we can, talk to each other, as well as establish a routine where we ask for suggestions and we get your feedback, and then we'll be able to help you and your child better. I think one of the common things that as a parent myself, and as most of the parents that I come across and I have come across in my career as a teacher and later on as a principal, is that, parents do have this common framework or comment where it says that, oh, my child doesn't listen to me. And this is not only for children of teenagers, because you expect that from a teenage, from a parent with a teenage child, but children, parents having children as young as 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds, etc., are still grappling with the fact that, why is it that when I talk as a parent, child is not listening, and how do I make my child listen better? So here are some tips that I have, gathered through my research, and they might not be the be all and end all, but I think it's a good starting point for us to, as parents, to start on and to establish certain practices from the time your child is young. In our school, we have parents from students from grade KG1 to grade 7. So from an aspect of a school demographic, we are quite a young school. So when it comes, so we have more younger kids, and as parents, I think if we set up practices or routines from a very young age, or systems and structures from a very young age, I think it will be very helpful for you going forward. So without much ado, I just want to get forward with my presentation. Like Mohan said, that in case you have any technical difficulties, his number has been given in the email, so please get in touch with him via a phone rather than email, so he'll be able to help you out immediately. There is a question mark icon over there in your screen, which is your Q&A, and you can always post your questions over there during the session or after the session, but I'll be handling those questions or answering those questions post the session gets over. I think the time right now is 12:30 or 12:37. I presume that we will be able to wind up by 2 o'clock, if not earlier. The recording of this session is available online itself. So you click on the link, you'll get the recording of the session. So the online recording is already on. So if you have other friends, your friends who have not been able to be part of the session today live, they can always go back and listen to the session. So to begin with, these are some of the questions that as a parent, I'm sure you'll be grappling with, and to name a few that I felt was very, very pertinent to a parent is, does your child always listen when you're talking? I mean, you talk and you find that your child is engaged somewhere else, or is not listening to you, or actively disobeying you. And sometimes it's very challenging and it's very frustrating when you're speaking to your kids, and especially when you have guests at home, or you have your in-laws at home, or you have your parents or cousins or aunts and uncles, and you want to make a great impression on them on how great parents we are and how good parents we are. And your child refuses to listen to you, and then you were like, what did I do wrong, and where am I going wrong, kind of thing. And sometimes in a conversation with your child also, even when you're having the conversations, the control, the entire locus of control of that your particular conversation is in the hands of the student, in the hands of the kids, rather than as a parent in your hands. So I think looking at all the frustrations and all the, what should I say, quirks of how parenting should be, or what we have learned as parents, of how our parents were with us. We need to, just probably you must be aware of most of the tips, and you must be practicing some of them very, very nicely. But there might be still certain things which you might be not aware of so well, and or some which but you might not practice. So you can, use that as a takeaway from this session and practice it. So I'm just going to take you through 10 simple tips on how to talk so your child listens. And it's upon you exactly how you want to take this forward, like whether you want to take a few tips from there or as a practice, or you might want to go back and read on it or see some more videos. Some of the resources I've shared at the end of the presentation. So there is a lot you can do. This is just the tip of the iceberg, so I'm not really going a lot in depth. Moving on. I just begin with a bang, the tip 1. Your child's name. You have given your child a name which is completely unique to you and to your child, and there's a reason. So use your child's name and maintain eye contact when you're having a conversation with your child. Most often than not, you say, listen, come here, without even mentioning. And if you have more than one child at home, then the children themselves are confused that who is the parent listening to or referring to. So this is the simplest and the most, the first tip. So another disclosure over here, the tips are there from 1 to 10. There is no sequence to it, like there is no step 1, step 2, step 3. It's just that, it's in a jumbled order. You can take on whichever you want at whatever time. But I think to begin with, this is one of those tips that all of us should remember as parents. And very simply, call out your child's name. Get their attention before you move on to the next part of the conversation. So if you want to give an instruction to your child, don't just blurt out that instruction in a single sentence and say blah, 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 blah. Call out your child's name when talking to them till you have their attention. Start speaking only when they either look at you so that you can maintain eye contact, or at least they have turned their head towards you if they are in the same room, or at least you have an option of, knowing that they're listening to you. Sometimes for younger kids, like, you have a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old at home, it's better to get down or kneel down to the level of the child. And if you're having a conversation which is more than one instruction, or it's not just an instruction and a direction, and you want to have a serious conversation with them about something, then it's better to have it on a table or on a couch, or, in your bedroom on the bed where both of you all are at the same level. So irrespective of the height difference between the parent and the child, child, the level should be the same, especially when you want them to listen to you. When you're delivering your message, it gives the child an understanding that, my parent is very, very serious about what he's saying, he or she is saying. So they do have a tendency to listen to you at that point of time. For example, you say Simone, and you pause till if she's, kicking a ball or she's writing something or watching TV and all that sort of thing. And when she looks at you and maintains eye contact, you will say, okay, lunch will be ready in 10 minutes. So this is the simplest way of getting your child's attention and getting them to listen to you. And if they reply back to you, then you should also be prepared to listen to their responses. So one of the things I want to say before we, move on is that these tips are from, it's a one-way street at this point of time. So this is where you're talking and the child is listening. There is another aspect or another side to the coin, which is like when the child talks, you need to listen, and that's another session altogether, and how you can listen as a parent when your child is talking. So I'm just doing one side of the coin right now, probably in the future, my next session would be on the other side of the coin also. Tip 2, use positive language. And what do we mean by positive language? Positive language does not mean good, excellent, outstanding. That's not what it means. It says avoid saying no or don't all the time, or don't start your sentences with a don't do this or no, you cannot do this, or any of these clauses. Avoid those words. Also, when you're speaking to your child and you tell your child, okay, don't run because you will fall, or don't hold the glass like this because you will, it will break. What you're actually doing is creating an image in the minds of your child, and more often than not, what happens is basically your child just ends up doing exactly that. The glass ends up breaking, or the child ends up running inside the house and falling and hurting themselves or hurting somebody else. So if you want children to listen to you, and if you want the child to be open to what you're saying, substitute it with, if you look at the sentence, instead of saying don't drop the glass, you can always say hold on to the glass carefully, or hold on to the glass and keep it on the table, it's a special glass. Or if you're saying, instead of saying don't run inside the house, you can say only walking inside the house, please. So what happens is that the child knows what is the appropriate behavior. You, instead of saying don't do something which is negative, what you are saying, you're actually allowing the child to picture is, if I'm holding a glass, then I'm holding it carefully and keeping it on the table because the glass is special. And that's the imagery that you're giving the child, and that's where, as a parent, that distinction in your communication that you should always do. Also, we've seen that, when we use positive and kind words, it also gives children confidence in themselves. It also allows children to be happy, and it allows children the space to grow. And rather than being bombarded with negative images or negative emotions or negative thoughts about themselves, which are shaming or ridiculing, etc. And when you tell them that, for example, you say, don't drop the glass, which means essentially you're telling your child that you're so careless that you're going to drop a glass. You're going to drop that glass. There is no way that you're not going to drop that glass. So you're actually sending across a message by saying don't drop the glass. You're sending across a message that, you're going to drop it anyway. So, I mean, you're anyway so clumsy that you will drop it anyway. So the child gets a negative feeling about, being clumsy. But on the other hand, if you say that, that glass is very special and hold it carefully and keep it on the table, it turns around the entire conversation or the entire imagery of the child. And the child is then not responsible for the glass breaking or not breaking. There might be times that your glass will still break, but that's okay. I mean, you're not made the child responsible for that act. It was an accident that occurred. also, instead of saying, clean your room today, or you will not get to watch TV or something of that sort, you might want to give them certain kind of positive and kind words after they have done something, even if it's a very simple thing. And like I know certain families as a rule or as a routine clear their own tables once they have dinner, etc. But in certain families it's not a norm to clear your own plates. Somebody or the other will always do it for you, either a person in the house, or the helping staff in the house, or the mother or the father will clean up the plates of the child. So in case if your child ever does something on their own, praise the child, and you can always say, I like the way that you kept the, it's nice that you kept your plate inside, it helped me a lot, kind of thing. So instead of only looking at negative behavior and only pointing that out, start pointing out positive behaviors also, and see the change in the attitude of your child. Tip 3. Give options and alternatives to your children. When I say options and alternatives, it means choices to the children, to your child. And believe me that they need to be in a space where they will make sensible choices. And it's not always, as a parent, you will be there around them to tell them, okay, do this and don't do this. And this is the right way to do this, and this is the wrong way to do this. So if they have options and alternatives in simple routine matters that they do around the house, going forward, it makes them confident about their own choices, and they know that if they choose something wrong, they are liable to have certain consequences for that. So then they end up making sensible choices, and sometimes it may not always be sensible, sometimes it might be the wrong choice, but at least they will take onus for their own behavior. So whenever you want your kids to cooperate with you, it is easier to make them understand, and it is easier for them to understand why you need them to do something when you show it to their advantage, and instead of the advantage of the parent. So, I'm not benefiting from my child cleaning his or her room. Your child is benefiting because he or she gets a cleaner room to sit in and to be in, and he knows exactly, he or she knows exactly where their things are placed. So it is easier for them to keep their timetable, or to go out to play with the right kind of toys, or find something missing. So cleaning the room is not really is not an obligation to the parent. It's actually more sensible if they clean the room for themselves. But children normally, and it's a very natural order of things, that they normally don't have consideration for others. So it's necessary to point it out to them. And in this case, when you're saying suggestions and alternatives, instead of using words like if normally has a more negative connotation than when. So instead of using the word if, use words like when or which allows your child to have more choices, to have better options, to also be able to make a choice themselves. So instead of saying, if you finish your homework, you can watch TV. So that's conditional, and you don't want them to do their homework because they want to watch TV. That's not what the message you want. You want them to do their homework even if they don't get to watch TV. You want them to do their homework even if you don't take them out to the mall. So instead of saying, if you do this, I will do this for you, that's very conditional, and that's more like a business transaction, like you give, I take, I give, you take kind of thing. And that's not how every transaction in your communication channel should be with your parent. I mean, some can be, and it happens that some are, and you can say that, okay, if this happens, let's make this happen kind of thing. I'll make this happen for you as a parent. But on a daily and a routine basis, it's not a good idea to always have a if you do this, I do this for you. It's not a very good conversation starter. It's not a very good way to bring up your children. So instead you say, when you finish your homework, however early or late you finish, you can then watch TV. right? Or if they're picking up a book or they're wearing clothes, then which color clothes do you want to wear today? Do you want the red one and the blue one? And if they choose something which you don't like, as a parent, you have every right to tell them that, I don't think this is the right one for this occasion. Can you go with the red one? So the next time when we go out, you can wear the blue one. So probably you're going to to a family gathering and you want your children to look really good, and your child chooses the most bizarre or the most worn out dress because it's comfortable, and you can always bring it to the notice of the child that, since it's a family gathering, everybody will be dressed up, and it's a festival, so all of them will be dressed up very well, and you'll feel very out of place if you are not in the right kind of dress. So why not wear something that I have chosen for you, and then the next time we go out to a mall or something of that sort, or to your friend's place, you can wear this. Believe me, children are very reasonable when it comes to these kind of conversations. We as parents think that, my child will not understand. Even a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old will understand the difference between one occasion, between going to a mall or going to grandma's place for a festival or going to the mosque or the temple, etc. So children do understand nuances or social cues, and we as parents need to give them credit for that and need to make them responsible and more observant over that. And if a child is not observant, bring it to their notice. It's perfectly all right if your child is not being, doesn't know what to wear when, or how to behave in front of this. It is always easy as a parent to bring it to their notice. Also, try as much as possible to allow your children to problem solve. Like, so for example, saying that, don't keep your books over here in the living room, and because you don't want your living room to get cluttered. Instead of saying that, you can say, okay, is this the right place for the living for your books? Can you choose a better place for this? And then you can come and tell me where did you keep your books, so that you and I both remember where it is. So I think conversations then can be, it takes a little bit more effort for the conversations to take place, for these kind of conversations to take place. However, it's a nice practice to keep it into place, and to open up, like I said, the lines of communication between that. And as a parent, I know it's difficult, and you're busy working, either right now because of the COVID, busy working from home, and you have deadlines to meet, etc. And conversations with your children are the last thing that you want to be inundated with, I should say. But nevertheless, I think a little effort on your part as parents will always go a long way in them being able to make sensible choices, and them being able to express themselves also very well. Tip 4, and I think this is something all of us as adults, when we are having adult conversations with our spouses, with our parents, with our siblings, with neighbors, or with people who have bumped our car from the back and have caused us an accident and a ticket. All of us, I think, need to, it's not only for when you're talking to children, but as adults, I think using volume appropriately is something all of us should practice. The world would be a better place to live in if each and every one of us practiced volume or kept our volume at an appropriate level. So a quick look at this and this I tell to all my teachers also in a classroom where the children are making a lot of noise. Don't ever compete with the child who's yelling, because he or she will be able to out yell you. And I'll repeat, don't ever compete with a child who's yelling or screaming, because he and she or they have the capacity to out scream you or out yell you. So don't even try that. And if you think that I'm mistaken, if you're sitting at home and after this session try it out. Actually demonstrate it. A quick practical demonstration will be able to this, and both of you all can start talking in a very loud voice, and you will see who wins in this, because you do get, tired. Talk only when they have calmed down or when you have calmed down, either of the two, and when they are in a listening mode. So normally when a child is when your child is screaming or shouting, there's a reason for that. They're upset, they're angry, they're sad, they're excited, or they're happy, and that's why they're talking loudly. So that there are innumerable number of reasons why any child will use a volume which is at a higher level. So talking to children at a volume which goes higher than that is only, so what the child will do is, the children actually think, and this I think has come out in a lot of our teaching learning strategies, and it's a classroom strategy also. So when you have a class which is extremely noisy, and they're talking to each other and all that, and what's the standard protocol of a teacher who enters the class, or a teacher in the class of which is noisy, is that the teacher says keep quiet. I mean, if they wanted to keep quiet, they wouldn't have started talking in the first place. So screaming at them to keep quiet or maintain silence when the teacher is using all of her vocal cords or his vocal cords to scream down or shut them down, only makes the volume of the class or the noise goes higher. It's not that they are actually disobeying the teacher, but since she or he or the teacher is yelling at them, they conditionally, think that the person whom they are speaking to or their friend is not able to hear them because, there's a background noise coming. So they will increase their volume. So it's like a natural tendency to do that. So when they think that, just talking at a normal level is not this because there is somebody screaming at the background, they will increase their levels also. So they will try to either match the level of the adult or they will try to outmatch it. So if like I said, if you want it, try it, and you will see I'm speaking the truth. The reason why you need to use a standard volume at all times when you're having conversation is that when you're using or when you're raising your voice in an emergency, or there is some kind of an urgent situation, you want your child to listen to you, and there is a panicky situation, or the child, the child is going to the child supposing is near a cut, broken glass, and the child is going to hurt themselves, and you want the child to stop. When you raise your voice, the child automatically pays attention because you've not done it earlier, so it's something new. So they'll get startled and they might not do what they were going to do otherwise. So what happens is that, when you're having a normal conversation all the times with the children and, you raise your voice, sometimes when you're upset or when you're stressed out, it might be workplace stress, or it might be anything stress related to family, personal problems, money, etc. And you raise your voice, your child knows that, my parent is upset because he or she is dealing with something and knows to listen or knows to keep quiet at that point of time. But however, don't do it all the time because it takes away the value of or the unique value of using it in certain situations. One of the things as parents, which we always do, is that you're in one room, or most of the time the parent is in the kitchen, especially the mothers, or you're sitting in the living room and your child is in another room and you're shouting orders or directions from where you are sitting. And you will see that irrespective of the time, how many other times you shout the same instruction to them again and again and again, you might not find that the child is even listening to you or even doing what you're saying, or even they're not even they're not even aware that you have made a statement or given an instruction, or are talking to them at all, because you are in another room, you're screaming, there's a TV going on, there is a lot of things or distractions in place, and they're like, okay, I don't think my parent is talking to me, so let's just ignore it. Or if it was important enough, maybe he or she will come and tell me herself or himself. So for example, if you're in the kitchen and you're screaming from the kitchen saying that, turn off the TV and, you can come to the dinner table and have dinner instead. And believe me, this is something that, and I've seen mothers do it all the time, screaming from the kitchen, especially when it is dinner time or lunchtime and you want your child to come and have hot dinner and hot lunch, and especially when they are at home during COVID. So at that point of time, you are like, the child is not listening, or then they come in 10 minutes late and they say that, okay, we didn't even listen or didn't hear you call us. It's best not to get into such a situation. You'd rather go to the room, if it is possible for you to take a break from the kitchen, or wait for you to complete your work in the kitchen, then set out the table, and then come to the child and very firmly tell them that stop doing whatever you're doing. You have 2 minutes to come to the table. I'm starting to have lunch or dinner. So I think those conversations or those instructions work better, and you're also modeling respectful behavior. You're giving them the due. You're respecting their choice of, them doing something else, even if it is as simple as them whiling away time by watching videos, or they're on the laptop playing a game or something of that sort. You're yet giving them the respect of their time and calling them out and telling them that you need to be here and not here at this point of time. I think, like I said, children are more reasonable, and these conversations make more sense when they are there. Tip 5, I think this is something that normally when parents come to me and you have children who don't speak to you a lot, or children who instead of speech use gestures, and this is for younger kids of KG1, KG2, or even grade 1 for that matter, when they get away with using gestures instead of words. So I would rather, instead of asking them as parents, instead of asking them yes or no questions, ask them questions which compulsorily compel them to answer you with more than a yes or no. And so if you want your children to be open about the conversation, or to have an open mind about the conversation, you need to ask them open-ended questions. And for example, they went to a birthday party, and instead of saying that, did you enjoy, Abhishek's birthday party today? And they will say yes or no, and you're done. Your conversation end. That's the end of the conversation. Instead of that, you can ask them, oh, how was what was the best part of the party? What game did you like the most? Or what color was the cake? And what dress did Abhishek wear, or the friends wear, and how many people were there, and were all of them your friends, or were they cousins, or something of that sort. So it's more than a yes or no answer. It definitely compels the child to give you more than a sentence sometimes to answer, and so when they're answering also, it's better to listen to them. So like I said, even though I'm talking about from one side of the coin, there is the other side of the coin, which as a parent, the amount of time that you spend talking, you need to spend the same amount of time listening to your children also. It's a good idea to respond to your children, especially the children who are not very expressive, and suddenly they start talking about something they're really, really excited about. You might want to say that, oh wow, that sounds nice, or if they're describing a movie or they have seen, or a book that they have seen, so you might want to say that, oh wow, that sounds exciting, I would like to see that movie, or I didn't know that the movie was so nice, or it's nice. Then you recommend it to your friends. You can share the movie's names with your friends, or the book's names with your friends, etc. So it keeps the conversation going, and it helps children express themselves more. And like I said, for younger kids, when they are not wanting to have conversations, or sometimes have delayed speech most often than not, or don't have enough words in their vocabulary to make conversations, this is a wonderful time to have conversations like these, where so we've done the first 5 tips, and it's already 1:05, so I'll just continue. I don't want to take a break, because I think we will have a break at the end of the session when we are doing the question answers. So the next, explain what you want with iMessages. So, so instead of putting the entire onus of the listening part of it to the child, to your child, you might want to start off your conversation with I kind of thing instead of you do this kind of thing. So instead of giving orders, you are saying that I would like it if you do it. It would make me happy, or wow, this is a wonderful way of sharing, and I'm so happy with the way you've shared with your toys with your sister. So, like I said, some kids sometimes need to be reminded about being considerate about others, and especially in when we have families like how we live right now in the UAE, where you have nuclear families with 2 children or 3 children at home, but the parents are the only role models as adults. Which is a far cry, or a very, very different from how probably we as a family grew up in our home countries, where we had cousins, we had grandparents, we had aunts and uncles, etc. So everybody was involved. So being considerate about others probably came naturally to most of us, and we didn't have to think too much about it. But in staying in an isolated and nuclear family where they don't get to meet a lot of other children, or children sometimes need to be reminded about how their behavior might affect somebody else. They don't always know it, and they don't always know the consequences of physical consequences. Yes, so if you run, you fall, you hurt yourself, I know. If you play with fire, you hurt yourself, I know. You play with anything that is going to be that is sharp, or the electrical socket, and you might hurt yourself, so physical injuries, of taking care of their physical safety, the children know these kind of, like, so there's a behavior and there's a consequence, and it's easy for you to show them that if you do this is what's going to happen. You're going to get hurt, or you're going to hurt somebody else, kind of thing. But when it comes to social cues or emotional behaviors, children always do not know that they can be considerate about others, and they can be considerate about you to begin with as parents. They don't need to be always considerate about everybody in the world, but if they begin with you, then they transfer it to a teacher in the class, or a student in the class, or other adults around them. So the transference becomes easier. And so instead of saying like, you come here, you might want to say, I would love if you come here. I would like for you to come here and help me out, or share your toys. You share your toys with your sister, so that you becomes like a pointing finger at them. And instead of that, you would say that, okay, I would love it if you share your toys with your sister or your brother, and it will make me very happy. It's nice at times when you have the time, when you have conversations like this, because automatically, and children basically are people pleasers, so they want to please their parents. It's a natural tendency again of children. They want to please their teachers, they want to please their friends, they want to be popular, they want to make others happy, and sometimes they don't know how. And if you can just tell them how, it will make their life all the more simpler, I should say. Tip 7, give notice and quit nagging. What does it mean? So most of the time, when you're going out, or when you want your child to be ready for school and the school bus is on its way, there is not enough. So if your child is young and is not yet able to read the clock or the timepiece, and you have to remind them that the bus is coming, don't nag them about it, because you keep telling them, oh, you're going to miss the bus, you're going to miss the bus, you're going to miss the bus today because you're late, you're going to miss the bus because you got up early, you got up late, and they're going to miss their bus. So it's better not to have conversational starters like these. Instead, you can say that it's nearly time for your bus to arrive. I'm sure it's going to come at the stop in another 5 minutes. What can you do in 5 minutes? Can you tie your shoes, take your bag, have your breakfast on the go, or can I pack it for you, or something of that sort? So you again You are establishing a routine. You are also giving the choice to the children, and your child then is not listening to a negative remark about how late they were and how missing of the bus is their fault and not anybody else's fault, and how you as a parent you do so much for them, and you get up early for them to cook their breakfast and their lunch, and how ungrateful they are because they are not going on time, and you then have to drop them to school. So I think your mornings are pretty heavily loaded if you are having conversations like these. Switch it completely. One is calm yourself down. When you know that you're going to do something, when you know your child is going to be late, relax. If you know for a fact your child is going to be late to school or is going to miss the bus, there's nothing shouting and screaming or making your child or ridiculing your child is going to, the bus is not going to come back and pick the child up. But you know that there are 10 minutes left and there's a lot that can happen in 10 minutes and the child can still reach to the school bus. You might want to change everything. So you don't want them to then have milk, have breakfast, put this. So you might need to help your child a little bit to hurry themselves up and say, okay, in 5 minutes we're going to do only so much. So you can leave your milk today, you come back and have it in the evening, you can just have the sandwich and let's go, wear your shoes and let's go. So give them notice. If you're going out and your children are busy playing, and you need to go out and you need to come, you need them to come and wash their hands, etc., clean up and change. You need to give them notice. You can say that okay, it's nearly time to go, or there are 10 minutes to go. If children understand the concept of 10 minutes, and start putting your toys away, or start cleaning up or washing up, and then we can go. So if you quit the nagging part of it, where same instruction is given repeatedly, which the children tune out. And I think there are times where, as parents, you should just quit talking if the children are not listening. Be silent. And you will see what a difference it makes, because the child is then curious as to why is my parent quiet, and why aren't they screaming, or why aren't they shouting? I'm late. So when you do have the time and do have the leisure as a parent to supposing you're going to mall, so instead of going at 6, it's okay, that going at 6:30 is also pretty much okay, and it's okay to go a little bit late. Quit talking at that point of time and sit in the living room and let the child make their own decisions as far as what time it is. And sometimes it's better if the children suffer those consequences. Say going for a movie and you are late because of your child, you can always miss the first 10 minutes of the movie, and then later on bring it to their notice that if we had been on time, then or next time we go for a movie, I think we should all take a time out and know when to get ready so that we have enough time to come to the movie. So again, conversation starters and the way we put up this. Recognize and praise your child's effort whenever possible. And you don't need to do it every day, every time. However young your child is, your child, and this is something that I keep telling the teachers also in the school, is that don't keep praising your child all the time. Don't keep saying good or excellent or outstanding and all the time, because there's no value to these words unless and until you really mean it, or they know for what you're praising them for. So if they've cleaned their room, then you say, wow, you cleaned your room today, thumbs up, keep it up. Next time, even I'll help you clean the room. Or if they have got an A, then you can say, wow, you did it's such a good effort, and in such a short time, you didn't get enough time to study, but yet you got an excellent grade this time, irrespective of the grade, and you feel that the effort is there, then praise the effort. And see what the difference it makes, because just saying good, just saying outstanding and excellent because you want to get away from that conversation is not very wise. So tip 8 is keep it simple. So whenever you're giving your instructions, and this is mostly for children of a younger age, I would say, a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old, or even up to like 6 to 7-year-olds and all that, who take more time processing languages or processing sentences, and you give them one instruction after another instruction without a pause. in that case, they will, out of the 4 or 5 instructions that you give, they will pick out only 1 or 2, and they will do only that, because believe me, they will not be able to keep up with you, or they are not listening to you, or you are being completely tuned out. So it would be wise if you would give them single block instructions. So at the most, have 2 instructions at the same time, and you say that, okay, on your way to keeping your books, pick up your socks also on the way, or something of that sort. So there are 2 instructions, but because they're already doing one work, they can do the other. But the third instructions, like start doing your English homework, can definitely wait. And once they have done these 2, then you might say that, okay, now you're done this, let's start doing your English homework, or math homework, or reading a book or something of that sort. So stagger your requests into smaller bits and pieces. Believe me, you might think that this will take so much time, and mom is telling us so many things to do, and we really don't know whether this is possible and all that. But believe me, the time and energy that you take to repeat all the instructions twice over or 3 times, and your child is still being able to do only one. Instead, if you had told him 1 instruction or 3 different instructions at 3 different timings, you would have got the work done from him or her in a far easier and effortless way. With lesser time and lesser effort and lesser energy on your side. So what happens basically is that when you repeat something again and again with the children, your volume also raises. So if I'm saying come to dinner, dinner is set at the table and come to dinner, I say it once, my volume is perfectly all right. When I have to repeat it again, my volume automatically, again, natural progression, automatically my volume increases. Then after repeat a 3rd time, exponentially the volume is actually going in the upward trend. And by the 4th or 5th time, when you say, you're actually screaming for them to come to have dinner. And however delicious or special the dinner is, it's gone. That moment is gone, because that special moment is gone, and then you can't expect your children to turn around and praise you for what you have cooked for them. So believe me, it's better to block it and make it into smaller blocks, and maybe some things don't need to be said also. And if you have routines or establish everyday habits, etc., then a child who knows that a child who's finished playing with their toys automatically knows that I have a basket, I need to pack up my toys and put them away before I start doing my studies or my homework, etc. So certain things you don't need to say it every day. Certain patterns you can establish from a very young age. So if you have a very young child at home and you have a place, so you don't really need a toy cupboard or something of that sort. Even an old basket or an old bucket can be this, where they can put all their toys, and one corner of the house also can be dedicated to putting away all their things when they are playing, and then they can clean up everything, put it in the side, and then go and do whatever they need to do next. I think that is more important than keeping on repeating something again and again on a daily basis. Tip 9, and this is something that all of us have a tendency of doing in all kinds of conversations. We rarely have the patience, some of us, I should say, rarely have the patience of listening to the opposite person, and we're more interested in the answer that we are giving than what the opposite person is having a conversation with us about. So you are ready with your comments, views, answers, your criticisms, or your excitement, etc., whatever, or in response to the conversation or which the opposite person is having, and we do it often to children, and that's the reason why. You see, even in a classroom situation, etc., children very rarely will wait for somebody to finish their term, in spite of the teachers telling them that you need to wait for your turn, or you need to put up your hand before you speak, etc., and all that. In spite of every teacher in a particular day, I think repeating that instruction almost, considering the fact that they have 9 periods in a day for the elder kids, which is 9 times already, and within the class itself, and she's taken it 5 times, which means that 45 times in a day. Your child has been told, wait for your turn, don't interrupt. Okay. But where are they getting the cues from? Why is it that children, are impatient to talk and, not as much to listen? Why are they not interested in the listening? Because most of the time that's happening to them. That's when they are talking, somebody's interrupting them. And most often than not, it's the parent or the teacher who's interrupting at times and cutting short their story and, either not listening to them or not interested in listening to them, or at times, trying to get that conversation as or the story as the time to give your life lesson at that point of time. So try as much as possible, and this is something that requires a lot of patience on the point of parents, because again, parents are stressed out. It's you're working from home, you have deadlines to meet, you have housework to do, the house to clean, the kids to be put online, etc. And your child comes up to you with a story, right? And you were like, what is this? I mean, should I use this time to interrupt, or should I scold the kid for interrupting me, or what should I do? So as much as possible, when a child comes to you, and let this be across ages, I'm not talking about a child who's younger, but even a child is older, when they come to you with a story, wait for the story to get over. In case you don't have time for the story, like you're an important meeting, like for example, if I'm having a session with you right now, and a child comes and is trying to have a parallel conversation with me at this point of time, it would be nice on my part to just turn around and tell them that, I'm having a session right now. Can you just wait for 10 minutes? I would love to listen to your story, but it will have to be done after 10 minutes. But after 10 minutes, I need to go back to that child and I need to listen to the story. I mean, that's one part of it. So if you don't have the time, please very clearly tell them, I don't have the time right now to listen to you because I'm doing something else. But definitely when we're having dinner, we can have this conversation again and pick it up and ask, like, you came earlier to me with a story or with something that you wanted to tell. What was it about? As parent also, it would be nice to take cues from, when they come to tell you something, to see whether it's serious or urgent, or, it's something that the child is getting scared of and is not going to repeat if you don't give them the time of the day. So I think as parents, you do have the intuition that, this is something really important for the child to share, and it might not wait till dinner time. Then please stop doing whatever you're doing and listen to the child. But otherwise, if most of the stories are about something that happened to them in school or in the bus or in the playground, then you might want to tell them that, okay, I don't have the time right now. Let's talk about this later. Also, it's important not to turn every story which the child is narrating to you, or every incident in the child's life, into a life lesson of its own. I mean, it's not necessary. Your values don't come from telling them or telling them about the dangers of what will happen. If this happens, this will happen, kind of thing. It's not necessary every time to point out to them. They're smart enough to know that, this is going to happen. Or like I said, they know the consequences certain times of behavior. So don't use every opportunity of a story or a narration or an incident in the life of your child, which a child is sharing excitedly with you, and turn it into a life skill lesson or into an important value-add lesson. And if you want to do that, wait for the story to end. So, for example, if your child comes to you and says that, wow, what we did today in the playground, all of us had cycles today, the bicycles today, and we had a race from one end to the other gate, from the entry gate to the exit gate. And you are, as a parent, scared because that's the parking lot, and, it might be that the cars would have come in and, any of the children would have been hit. But don't interrupt the story. Let the story finish. Don't cut into the excitement of your child by saying that, oh, but why did you all do that? And it's so unsafe, and there would have been a car and you would have met with an accident, and what would you have done? And blah, blah, blah. So I think you need to, temper down yourself, and you say that, okay, you listen to the story and say, wow, who won? And, what happened and all that. And you might want to say that, where did you cycle? And they would say the parking lot. And And you say, but weren't there cars coming in at that point of time? And that sets a child thinking. And was it safe enough? If a car came in, what would have happened? And would any of your friends or you would have got hurt? And is that the right place to have a cycle race? I mean, it might be a place to cycle, but it might not be the right place to have a cycle race. And you might give them other options. You still heard the story, you still had your life lesson, but you're not cut into your child's this, and his child does not then stop talking to you or stop sharing important events in their life, however dangerous it is. So, there are times where you need to, because if you're talking about health and safety, and if you want to talk about the safety of your child, the physical safety of your child, it's important sometimes to bring it to the notice of the child that there is a chance that you may get hurt, or your friends may get hurt. So someone is going to get hurt. I mean, someone is going to get hurt if this happens in this way. And the next time you're having a cycle race, you can tell them, you can talk to the security guard and find out, what's the safest place to have a cycle race. So you're still having all of these, but you still make time for the conversation or the life lesson at the end of it, and you're still doing a good job as a parent. But cutting the child off and scolding the child and trying to bring the dangers of something to the child, and the child is in the euphoria and excitement of having won the race, or at least having completed the race, and you're telling that it's not safe. So without even listening to her side of the story, it might so the next time your child has such an event, they will think twice, or they will be more cautious about what they are telling you, and which means that you're not getting enough information to even have that kind of life lesson again. So it's a very thin line of patience, and it's a very thin line of anxiety that you need to maintain. That okay, let them finish, and I will then talk, kind of thing. Last but not the least, like I said, as a parent, parenting is not only about talking and listening, and there are so many other aspects of, as parents that we need to think of. You need to create a beautiful life for your children, for your family. You need to be earning for your family. You need to be there for your family physically, mentally, emotionally, etc. And there is a lot of stress which, as parents that you have, which are not related directly to your family, and which might be in the professional space, in your careers, in your families, I mean, in your extended families, etc. So it's not always about the students or the children, and it's not always about your kids. And there might be times that you'll be very frustrated or very challenged and very stressed out, and you really do not know what to do. I would suggest take a step back and take a deep breath and just let all the anxieties and the worries go away for some time at least. I know it's not very easy, but it can be done, and it should be done, because only then we'll be able to set an example for our children. And they would also know that, when in a panicky situation or in a situation of anxiety, this is what I need to do. I need to take a step back, and I need to, this, and I don't need to keep anxious and worried all the time, or be responsive or defensive every time something happens. I can be calm, I can be tolerant, I can be patient as a child, and then look into a situation from different angles, and then come back with my own response. So as a parent, enforce all your rules, but don't try to be too regimental about it. Something is not happening, it's okay. And things are going to turn out for the better. It might not happen today, but it might happen tomorrow. And if you're going to lecture your children all the time about, and one of the I think most common lectures that we give is that, one is, I know more than you do because I'm the parent and I'm the adult in this equation or in this relationship. So obviously I have lived longer than you. I know better. That's one angle which parents have, or which most parents have. Another is that, in our times and when we were kids, this is how we were brought up. And so you also need to get, be brought up in the same manner. And we did it during our times. And Now it's, not able to manage even simple things at your times. And we also tend to, lecture our children on what they should be doing and what they ought to be doing all the time. And that's as a parent. I mean, the moment you become a parent, it's like as if, somebody has given you a PhD or a degree in professorship or lectureship, and you like, you know that, okay, page 1, chapter 1. When my child is 2 years old, I need to lecture my child on these topics. When he's 4, this is what is going to happen. When it's 5, this is what I'm going to talk about. That's not how it is. And the more you lecture, the more your children are going to tune you out. I think it's very safe to tell that to you, that the more you're going to repeat the same thing again and again, and you tell them that, okay, you have to do this. Because otherwise this will happen, or you have to do this in this manner itself, and all that, you're taking away the choices of your children. You're taking away their thinking abilities. You're taking away their problem solving abilities. You are not allowing them to be independent or to be responsible for the choices that they make. You're not allowing them to grow and explore their personality. And then you think that, why is my child, when compared to the other children, so quiet, or so, such an introvert, or, is not very expressive in front of an adult, or is not able to approach an adult very confidently. Because there are certain things that you may have been doing. I'm not saying that it's your fault all the time. There are certain personality, there are certain personalities that children are genetically, or are born with, and inherent qualities that they are born with. But at the same time, environment, or the nurturing part of it also plays a very important role, and how you bring up your kids and what kind of conversations you have with them will always contribute or influence the way they make their own choices, and they think about their friends, their peers, when they talk to teachers, when they talk to adults around them, etc. So instead of telling your child, you should always listen to your teacher, and your child will turn around and tell you why. Because you don't have an answer to that why. You can always say that, oh, because you're never going to learn, but that's not going to happen. There's Google. So if they want information, there's Google, there's their friends, there's so much out there that your child is going to learn, irrespective of the teacher or the school. So you should do this because of this is not a good enough answer or conversation for your child to have, or instruction for your child to be given. Instead, you can say that, okay, you find a class boring, think about something that you can do that in that class, or some task in that particular subject that will make it interesting for you. Or because if you're not going to listen, sometimes you might not understand that concept or topic, and by the time the teacher goes to the next topic, you will have that kind of a gap or something of that sort. So you might want the child to make their own plan of action, where they will say that, okay, I will listen to the teacher, or I will at least sit in the class. I might not put on my video, or I might not put on my audio, but at least I will at least be in the class, or be in front of the laptop, especially now with the online lectures happening. I'll be in front of the a classroom chat, and I will at least listen, if not participate, and then you can probably get them to participate later on, having conversations of how, when, and all, and reach out to the teacher at times to work with the student in a different manner, or encourage them to be more participative in the class, etc. So this is one example that I've just given about the class, but this holds true for everything. You should be doing this, or you should choose this subject, or you should go to this particular after school class, or you should do this, and then this will happen, or then this will not happen, and all that sort of thing. So when they are younger, probably, yes, the choices that you make for them, which school you want to put your child to, etc., may not be your child's decision. But as they grow older, it's nice to have a conversation with your child about what's going to be different if the school is different, what's going to be different if you change your apartments. You're not asking your children permission to change your apartment or your job or anything of that sort. That's not what you're looking for. You're not looking for approval as a parent. You're not looking for permission from your child who is barely 10 years old, or 9 years old. But you do have conversations like, you have a new job around the line, and you say that, I'm going to be in a new job, and I might be traveling quite a bit, and that's I might be eating into the time that I might be spending with you and the family, and that's going to make a difference. So you're going to be able to you and your mom are going to be alone in the house most of the time. So these kind of conversations you need to have with your children. So you're not actually asking for approval. You're not actually asking for permission. What you're doing is you're just setting the platform for more conversations around that. And believe me, that will go a long way for your children to be participative and be responsible at home too. So I've done all the tips, and this it's possible then I can share this presentation also with you all. I will ask Mohan how it can be shared. So however, I mean, when you think of all the examples that I have given you, all the tips that I've given you has basically one common theme. It's all in English. And conversationally, or as a language, English is far more easier for us to change the tone of the language, or change the say please, or you have the golden words, and it's easier for us to use English to communicate with our children. That is, if English is the main language of communication at home for you. But mostly it's not the case. Not all families will communicate in English at home, and therefore you have your mother tongue or the regional language which you communicate with. And most of the time in the regional language, and most regional languages or mother tongues have their own dialects, etc. And it might be difficult to say words like sorry and please, etc. For example, I come from South India, and I still don't know what is the meaning of please, and I don't know the meaning. No, sorry, I don't know the term of please in my mother tongue. I have to search out, or I have to ask my mother about it. But seriously, I don't really know what is the term which we used for please in my mother tongue. So there might be times where barriers for listening to your children or changing the kind of conversation, maybe because of the kind of language that you use at home, and the dialect that you use at home. And not all dialects will, and certain dialects and certain ways we talk to the children are very monotonous, and they are in a particular volume, they are in a particular pitch, and that cannot change. And I'm sure as a child, your child is used to that kind of volume and pitch and all that. But you can change some of the things. You can still use some of the words that were there. You can still use golden words in English if you want, like please, sorry, thank you, etc. And have a combination of both your regional language or mother tongue and English at the same time. So that's one of the places where I feel that you might not always be comfortable to have these kind of conversations because you're not used to it before, and your mother tongue or your language that you speak at home may become a barrier to you. But consciously, as a parent, when you make an effort to do it, I'm sure you can have conversations even in your regional language, and which will be extreme, where the children are listening to you, and they are responding to whatever they're listening to. Another barrier is differential parenting styles. So you as parents, there are two parents. There is a mother and a father. The mother comes with her own childhood experiences and her own family background, socioeconomic background, demographics, language, etc. The father comes with it the same. So probably one of the parent is coming from a large family with a lot of siblings and a lot of aunties, uncles, cousins, grandparents, and have very different social networking style. Whereas one of the parent might be a single child, and the only child of the parents, with not too much of interaction with their extended families, etc. So, but natural that the parenting styles and the communication styles with both the parents will be different, and that difference is something that you'll need to accept. Sometimes you can change those differences. Sometimes you cannot change the differences, but you can come or come to a third point of or pathway where it is not your way or the highway kind of thing. It is more a third route that you take with when you're dealing with your child, because there both of you are on the same platform and both of you are on the same path or the same route, and you're not coming from two different directions. So even though you're coming from two different directions, you converge at a particular point, and then from there on you're together when it comes to parenting or when it comes to conversational or communication styles with your child. So both of you agree that this is what we're going to do in the future, and this is how we are going to talk to our children or our child, and that will help it make it much more better for you. Otherwise, there is one parent who's normally struggling to have conversations, whereas one is actually not bothered because they think it's not important enough. Why? I mean, when they grow up, they will learn, they will talk. I mean, why would we need to have conversations when they are 4 years old or 5 years old? Why? So, and even the parenting style, for example, certain parenting styles are very autocratic or very dominant, whereas certain, so you have a spectrum. You have one end of parents who are very indulgent and, who want to give in very easily, and one set of parent where the parent is very autocratic, very strict and regimental and very rigid. So when you have two different styles of parenting within the same house, and child gets mixed messages, and most of the children are confused about what they are supposed to do. And believe me when I say that children are smart. They may be confused for some time, but they know which parent to go to when. They know which parent is a softer parent and who will give them permission for doing certain things and whom they can get out more things from. And it's not always the mother, or it's not always the father in the picture. Parenting styles are very, like I said, because of your background, etc., and childhood experiences are very varied. So don't use gender over here to say that mothers are always going to be very soft and fathers are always going to be very strict. No, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's the opposite, and in most families. And therefore you really, as children, they're smart enough to use one parent against another parent, and you don't want that to happen in your house, especially not when your children are too young. It's going to happen sometime or the other in the future, but you'd rather wait for the future rather than happening it with a 5-year-old kid who wants a toy for his, or wants an Xbox for his birthday, or something equally expensive, and the father wants to be indulgent and the mother wants to is saying no. So the child actually knows whom to play with and whom to to soften the blow, and to get his or her work done. So this again forms a barrier for communication or conversation styles, etc. So I think it's important to remember that this will be a barrier, and then to move forward from there. So most of the barriers when I'm talking about is your barriers while communicating with your child. When I say they are barriers for you to speak so that your child is listening to you, and these barriers also sometimes work as roadblocks for your child to be able to excuse themselves out of listening to you also. So like I said, when it's differential parenting styles, your child will be able to say, okay, I already asked dad, and when the mom is completely and there was a hard no from mom, the child has already done the job by asking the father permission for the same. So it becomes easier for the children to play off, and that's why it's a roadblock. Family traditions and norms. We all come from families, and like I said, some of us within the parenting, I mean within the couple or the two parents would come from different modalities or different experiences and childhood experiences and social norms and family traditions and norms. I know of certain communities in India who bring up their children in a particular manner, and they're very sweet to the child. They are very respectful of the child when they speak to the child, especially when the child is at a younger age. They will speak with a lot of respect and will use the terminology which you would add, which you would use for your father or your mother or your grandparents, etc., instead of using a straight he or she. English, again, like I said, is very different. Everybody is a you and everybody is a he or she and all that. There's no difference. But in regional languages, you do have respectful language which you use when you're using with adults. And there are certain families that I know in India who use a lot of family norms. And again, when you're coming and converging that, and you're trying to establish that, and like I said, it's very common for us to say that, okay, I grew up like this, why can't my child grow up in the same manner? So you have two styles of parenting over there also, where you're so, I mean, even if your own childhood has not been very great or very, and has actually in sometimes, hindered you or hampered you or traumatized you, but then you still are a successful person today. Your tendency is to, justify that kind of behavior by saying that, look, I had these bad experiences, but I turned out good. So my child can continue having those experiences. So you turn out a parent who will repeat those mistakes because you feel that, you need to toughen your child up because this is a tough world, and your child needs to listen to what you are saying all the time and does not need to have their own opinion about something. So you enforce that very strongly from your point of view. And you have another parent who's been through different childhood experiences, and is not all of us have, and I think most of us will have happy childhood memories and will still have certain bad experiences which we could have done without. But at the same time, you have one parent who will stick to the norm and say that, no, it can be repeated and my child needs to listen to this and they don't need to have any other choices and all that. Whereas another parent will say that, no, I'm going to do a complete 360. My father or my mother was very strict and didn't allow me out of the house after 8 o'clock in the night, or didn't allow me to go to my friend's house to play in the evenings, or always made me study in the evenings, and I didn't have any playtime. So I'm not going to tell my child to study. I am just going to be very, very liberal and open about it, and my child can study when they want, play when they want, do whatever they want, and irrespective of the age of the child. That again, it's wide spectrum, and we need to have a different session for that itself. But they again form a lot of barriers when it comes to communication with your child, and that sometimes will stop you from, even if you want to, and even if your child is asking you to have a conversation with them, you might say that, no, in my family this was done like this, children were treated like this, conversation and children went like this is going to continue. So even if it's a mistake, you continue it. You might not normally continue good practice. It is normally seen throughout history that bad practices are the ones that are continued. Good practices are normally, nobody remembers them. And so even when you talk about your experiences in the childhood, you would, first thing would remember a bad experience over a good or a happy memory before anybody else. That's, I mean, most of us would do that. Last but not the least is the cultural or societal expectations. So when I speak about the cultural or societal expectations, I also speak about demographics over here. So, you are bringing up your children in UAE, which is a very different, ball game altogether than bringing up your children back in the home country. So the society or the environment around you has certain expectations or certain norms or guidelines that you need to follow, or you are following, because you're bringing up your child in certain places. So there are certain rules to be followed, there are certain norms to be followed, there are certain expectations that, as a parent, you're expected to do this. Sometimes it might be good, sometimes it might act as a barrier. So a classic example that I feel that, in the UAE, and maybe this is because I've spent my lifetime in a place like Mumbai, and I've seen children in Mumbai, and in my earlier school, a child as, probably in the second standard or third standard, which is like your 7-year-old child or your 8-year-old child, who is able to, go from home to the school on his or her own, or use the public transport like a bus, a public transport bus. I'm not talking about the school bus, or I'm not talking about the parent picking up the child. And these are from affluent families. I mean, I was working in a school which was in, South Mumbai, which is like a premium affluent this, and I've had ministers' children and children from industrialist families, etc. And it's not for the lack of money. It's just that the expectation is that a child who is born and brought up in Mumbai needs to be smart. Okay, they won't be able to survive otherwise. And you send your 7-year-old to buy groceries to the market with the money, and they go to the supermarket and they buy their own groceries. I have never seen that happen over here. I mean, in the past few years that I've been here, I've never seen children. I've seen teenagers. I've seen elder kids, like maybe 15-year-olds or 12-year-olds or something of that sort. 12-year-olds also is too much, but I would say 14, 15-year-olds or above buying stuff alone, and that also they will not buy alone. They'll be in a group with 4, 5 kids, etc. But I've never seen a child below the age of 10 ever walk up to a supermarket and buy something. I don't even know whether it's allowed over here, but even if it is allowed, even if it is a local grocer's shop, which is right down in your building, I don't know how many of us as parents in staying in UAE will be comfortable sending your child to pick up something on their own and come back. So again, that's some, in spite of the fact that, according to me, UAE is one of the most safest countries as far as children and women are concerned, and the crime rates towards children and women are considerably lesser than any other country in the world. But yet, I don't know how comfortable even I would be hearing that child is coming to school on their own, walking to school when they are in the 4th standard or something of that sort, or using the metro and the bus which is there to come to school. So like I said, you live in a particular community, you live in a particular country, and that also acts like a barrier for communication, because you are right now when with COVID happening, etc., and people in the lockdown situation, etc., from the past, I mean, especially in the month of April, May, June, and all that, where all of us converged at home and nobody was allowed to go out. At that point of time, everybody's at home and everybody's having conversations and still working, still doing housework, still attending class, etc. I'm sure you must have had a lot of challenges and frustrations where conversations went haywire between children and parent, where you had children not listening to you, and that pattern sometimes continues. So in order to break that pattern, maybe these tips will be helpful to you, and you might want to use some of them. Like I said, you don't need to use everything. You can pick and choose some things, like if I had to pick and choose something out of this. When talking to my own children, I would say that using volume appropriately would be something that I would use, because there is, I know myself very well, and I know there's a tendency for me to raise my voice when I have to say something and when I'm upset, and not that they made me upset, but I had something to do in school or in office and all that, and that has upset me at home. So my conversations normally begin with that kind of volume and pitch and tone, and that's something that I beautifully would like to adapt or adopt. And the second thing that I think I would love to adopt is I would not interrupt the conversation when my children are talking to me, and I tend to do a lot of that, where I say that, okay, look here, I know your conversation is going to be this long, let's cut it short, or you just summarize and you tell me in 2 sentences or 2 words, and that's done, because I'm not listening, or I'm not interested in listening. And that comes across very strongly to the children, and then they sometimes don't talk to me later on, and then they tell me that you were never interested in listening to us, so why do you even want to have this conversation again? So I think, like I said, everything is not going to be possible. It may not be possible because of these various barriers and because of your own personal views and opinions about how you should bring up your children, etc. But I would suggest that try 2 or 3. Try the simple ones. Try something like especially when you have younger kids, the avoidance of the terms no, don't, etc. Substitute them with positive sentences, or sentences which don't have that don't and no, etc. So I think those are certain simple tips that you all can you all can remember. Mohan is going to send you the link for the feedback, and it'll barely take you 30 seconds to a minute to have the feedback. Please give your feedback. It's very invaluable to us because we know how the session, not only for me to know how the session went, but to know how this works for you, and whether it's something that you want us to continue, or whether it is not really great and you really don't want us to, it's not really making that much of an impact. Let us know, because we are more than happy to make some changes or tweak something and make it a better platform where we can engage with you in a better manner, and possibly have people from outside also come in and speak to you as parents, and you can give us suggestions for topics that you want future sessions to be. It can be on subject topics, it can be like Arabic, or teaching English, it can be anything, right? So I think in the live chat or in the question and answer, which I can't see on my screen right now because I'm using the, what should I say, the presentation. So in that case, please give your feedback. It's an automatic, I think, Google form or something of that sort. If the link is there, just click on the link and you'll be able to help us out, or help us do better the next time. Okay, before I think, like I said in the question answer session, there is, which can be published. You can place your questions based on the tips that you have listened to, and if I can answer a few questions. It's already I'm nearing 2, and I would want to wind up on time. So let me spend some time. Maybe I can take 3 or 4 questions if there are any. And if you press the like button, then if the question is already asked that you feel is important and you want to know the answer to, please press the like button, that thumbs up button over there, which means that if the number is more, then we'll be able to have that. I'll be able to answer that question. Till that time, till you put your question answers in the question and answer box. These are some of the resources that you can always go through. There are books that are written on, so like I said, how to talk so kids will listen. I've done only that part of it, but there is another important side of the coin that I've not yet touched on, and that is listen. How you as a parent can listen so your kids will start talking more to you and sharing more with you, their feelings, their emotions, the events that happen in their life. And this is not about only complaining about somebody else. So if something is not going fine, if they're having a fight with a friend and they're saying that, no, my friend is bad and I don't want to talk to my friend. It's not only about that. It's about everything that happens with them. It's not only about sharing the only exciting news or really bad news with you. Those of course need to be shared, but even routine things that that they felt, okay, I felt nice today because something special happened in school, and I saw some friend of mine helping somebody else or being rude to somebody else, and I felt bad for the other child or something of that sort. So all these things help you to understand where your child's value systems are also, and help you to understand whether your child is on the right track and whether the values that you have embedded in him or inculcated in him or her is still, and the child is still processing that and using that or applying that. And so it's a nice checklist to know, when they have conversations with you, that, okay, yeah, my child is on the right track, and I'm happy with the way my child is thinking, or I'm happy with the way my child is planning, or having conversations with me or the people around me. You must all be aware about the TED Talks that it's there online. There are a lot of talks on parenting, beautiful videos, which would help you understand. They're very short, and they're barely, some of them are 10 minutes, some of them are 17 minutes. There are a lot on teaching, there's a lot on education, etc. But it gives you a wider perspective because you have people from around the world sharing their experiences. And like I said, some of them are really amazing. There are also YouTube videos, and one of them that I liked was, again, the title is How to Talk So Kids Will Listen. Live on Purpose TV is this. So when you type How to Talk So Kids Will Listen on YouTube, you might find it in the first few options that you have. So coming, so let me just thank you. So creating connections Tuesday, next Tuesday, I think is December 1st, which is a holiday due to the UAE National Day. So I think next Tuesday we might not be able to have any session. But before we wind up for the holidays, before that is the first week of December, on Tuesday, 8th December, we'll be having something for the parents. If not for the parents, we'll have something for the students. So let me see what happens. Last time we had already shared that, Priyangika ma'am, our KG coordinator, will be taking a session on emerging literacy. So if she's taking that session for KG1, KG2, if we have a parallel session for probably the students of grade 1 to 7, let me see if I can work that out. If that happens, then we'll be having it on, I think it is 8th December, that's a Tuesday, again at the same time at 12:30. So please be prepared for our intimation and notification. Probably we'll be sending it on Monday, the 7th of December, and you can join in according to which grade you are from. So, Mohan.
Ma'am, there are few questions if you would like to answer.
I'll just come to that, and I'm just trying to figure this out.
Yes.
1 minute. Yeah, so I have to come to the questions, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The new, I have to go in new, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. I think one of the questions is if when you say things like, I would like you to share your toys, or this makes me happy, then wouldn't it make children get into a people-pleasing tendency? I don't think that so any strategy or anything that we use very often or we use it without any meaning will always have a negative effect. So anything which you use too much also is going to have a negative effect. So you should, as a parent, be intuitive enough to know when to use these kind of sentences, because when your child is wanting to please you, and it's okay to please somebody. Like if I'm making somebody happy, then so be it. I'm sure the world will be in a better position. Why would I want to make my parent unhappy? What's it going to get me as a child if I'm going to make my parent unhappy and sad and upset and angry? So I'd rather make them happy, right? And I'd rather make my teacher happy. And if everybody is going to use that, so it's not about people pleasing. It's about keeping in mind as a child, like I pointed out, sometimes children don't have that kind of consideration, that it doesn't come naturally to many children, that they need to be considerate of the emotions or feelings of, say, their brother or sister. So when they are snatching a toy from their sister or their, a 2-year-old sibling or something of that sort, and they are the elder sibling, they don't always realize that, the child probably might get hurt, or the child will get upset or something of that sort, because it's not because they don't like their sibling. It's just because that they don't have that kind of capacity to be that considerate. So what we are trying to tell them by using statements like that, this is to be considerate about. So you can say, your grandmother will be very happy when you keep your plate inside this, or when you wash your dishes, or when you help her out when she's taking a walk, or hold her hand when you're taking a walk. So it might not always be about you. It might be about somebody else also. So it's not about, I will be happy all the time. It might be your father will be happy, sister, brother, parent will be happy when you do that. And like I said, use it when it is appropriate. Most of the tips that I have said, you don't have to use it every time. And I'm thinking about the fact that every time I need to speak to my child, if I have to say please, what's happening then, and there are times where I might not want to use the word please, or not wanting to use the word please. So so there is that intuition that as a parent you need to work with and figure out that how it needs to be done, or when it needs to be done, when it needs to be used, or how often do you need to use a particular strategy. How do you deal with two talkative kids who are always eager to share so many things with us? I think you can always give them a timeout and say that, okay, when we are having, so you can have special times, family times. And I know that certain children are very, very eager and very excited about everything. They are excited about even if the shoelace comes out, or if they were able to tie their shoelaces and all that, it's exciting for them. And it's like, wow, I did this kind of thing, and this happened to me. So at times, it's difficult to curb down that enthusiasm, but if you do it, and at times, like I said, if you're not in the frame of mind to listen, and you are not going to give attention to their child, it's better to have that conversation very clearly and say that, okay, I'm doing something right now, so I'm not free to listen to you because I'm doing something important, and that something important should be important enough, even if it is like you're sending a WhatsApp message or something to you, you're on WhatsApp or something of that sort. You need to tell them why it is important to you, rather than to just push them off and then watch TV. So if watching TV is important and watching the news is important for you for some reason, then you tell them that it's important to you for some reason. And if your child is still very talkative, I think there can be special moments or special times in a day, like evenings or dinner times or after dinner times. You complete your dinner and you wait at the table, or if not at the table, earlier in our times and all that, we used to sit on the floor and eat food together and have lunch and dinner together. So we don't get up immediately and start clearing up and all that sort of thing. So you spend some time talking to each other and what happened, and you give the space to your children to talk at that time. So if your child is extremely eager all the time to discuss everything that with us, you can probably tone it down and tell them that, okay, you can share this with your sister, brother, or your friends, and in the evening let's share it together when we are having dinner or after dinner or something of that sort. Can you okay, can you give some tips on how to make studying a habit? Okay, I have not in this session, I have not touched, I should say, on anything related to studying or teaching, learning, or school, etc. Definitely, I would like to do a session. If not me, then I would, invite somebody else to do a session on how to make studying a habit. And I don't want to leave it too late. Probably in the first week of January or something, when we come back again in the new year, hopefully with better news on how schools will be opening, etc. I'm sure that we will be doing a session on studying and habits or tips related to making studying a habit. I would love to do that, and I definitely will take it as a suggestion for our next session. And this session I actually did not touch upon that. How to make kids understand what can be shared and what not outside of home. So let me, and I think that can be a last question for this. So the question is how to make kids understand what can be shared and what cannot be shared outside the home. So children normally don't have a filter. Right, they don't have a filter of conversation. So whatever happens at home, and that happens all the time to us as teachers, and where I've had conversations with children, and they have shared with me things happening at home between the parents, and what kind of conversations the parents are having with each other, and what decisions the parents are taking, etc., and all that. And they have come and told me, not because I'm curious or I asked, but just because they wanted to share. And it's difficult to stop your children from sharing. So let's find out, why would a child want to speak about something that's happening at home outside the classroom or outside the home, and wanting it to share with a friend or somebody else or the teacher in the class and all that, is because One is because they're not getting a platform to voice their opinion or, think about that conversation at home. So that's the reason why, whatever is happening at home, they will blurt it out to some other third person who may not even be in the picture. And you don't, and you're embarrassed, or you do not know where to look when your children do that. And it happens more often than not because children do say, the weirdest thing about the family in the open. One of the reasons, one of the things that I, as a parent, then you would want to understand, why would my child move out of the house and share something that's very private and it's a very family experience or intimate amongst the family with somebody outside, and you need to figure out what's the answer, and answer will be different for different families, and maybe the child needs an outlet and the child needs to share it with somebody, or maybe the news is so exciting and so important. So if it's a good news, it's okay. If it's something which is extremely private and your child has already done it, it would be a good idea to tell your children that, next time that you want to have a conversation like this, first you speak to me and then you speak to somebody else, in a very nice tone, and don't say that, don't talk about it, outside the home, or it's a secret. Or you can, probably say that, oh, we are having a secret society at home. So for younger kids, make it like a game kind of thing. So we have like 5 secrets at home that we're not going to share with anybody, and we're not going to share it with even your grandparents, or even with your aunts or uncles, or with your friends and all that. And these 5 secrets are only for us in this house or in this family to know, etc. So I think for younger kids, when they're in KG or grade 1 and all that, the entire thing about family and keeping secrets in the family as a game would work. But if they are in the older, I think it would be nice to sit them down and say that, certain things are very, very private in the family, and we make certain decisions because we as a family know what is happening. So it would be, before you share it with somebody else, you ask me, and that I want to share it with my friend or my teacher, etc. Or when you shared it, you might want to come and tell me that, I shared it, and you can see what kind of damage control you can do, because once they've said it, it becomes very difficult to take it back. So I think we are at the right time when school gets over. This is 2:12, and I hope the session was good and you have given your feedback on the feedback form that was, I think the link was sent to you. Please give us suggestions. Once again, I ask for suggestions on what we can do or what we can do in the future and how it will work in the future. And like I said, please use some of these tips in your homes. Try it today. Like I said, try the screaming and yelling exercise the next time your child is yelling, and try to out yell him or out scream him. Of course, keep in mind that your neighbors might come running, but definitely do it. Or use some of the beautiful tips that are there that will help you engage better with the children. So the purpose over here is to be in a position not to control your children, not to control the situation, not to control the conversation. This is not what we are talking about. This is about that if I want to tell something to my child, and it's important, certain times you might, give instructions just for the sake of it, and you really don't care whether the child is listening or not listening, so it's okay. But there are certain conversations, or certain times you really want the child to listen to you, even if it's an instruction, or even if it's a chore that the child is supposed to do at home, or whatever it is, because it's important. And those are the times that you really, really want your child to listen to you. And this is about that. So the tips are more about, if you practice it every day, probably there might come a time where, and you're not having significant conversations with your 3-year-old or 5-year-old every day, where you're having, like I said, life-changing, altering conversations you're not having with them on a daily basis. But when you really need to say something important to your 5-year-old, your child is going to listen to you, because he or she has got a tendency to listen to you, because you have already created that atmosphere or that platform where you have done the homework and you have done all your background checks and you've finished all that. And that's when, when you really at a point in your life and you're having a conversation with them and we're communicating to them, talking to them, your child is in a better position to listen. And I think that's where we want this entire conversation between a parent and go to, not making a screaming match between the two, or not the parent controlling the child or the child controlling the parent through his or her own tantrums, etc. That's not what we are looking at. Control is not the purpose over here. The purpose is communication. The purpose is conversation. And with that, thank you very much. Like I said, if you can just leave a quick feedback for us, it would be very, very helpful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mohan, for helping out with this entire setup. I think, Mohan, I can leave right now. I can end the session. So parents, you can, I think, click on the end button and leave the session.